A gentle invitation to reflect. There's a moment in life, often quiet and unexpected, when we pause and look back not just at the years we've lived, but at the people who have walked beside us from the very beginning. Not our children. Not our closest friends. But the ones who knew us before the world ever did. Our brothers. Our sisters. They are the ones who shared our childhood laughter, our secret hiding places, the same rice bowls at dinner, and sometimes even the same bed when the power went out. And yet, as the years roll on, many of us find that the very people we grew up with become distant strangers. Not because of one grand betrayal, but because of the small cracks left untended. A disagreement over money. A harsh word said in frustration. A lack of boundaries. A silence that grew too loud. If you're watching this, chances are you know exactly what I mean. My name is Dr. James Whitaker, and in this video, I want to speak to your heart not as a therapist or a professor, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand the quiet heartbreak that comes when siblings grow apart in later life. Today, I want to invite you on a journey. A reflective one. One where we revisit not just the relationships we were born into, but the ways we've shaped them over time. I'll share with you 7 powerful truths, emotional, practical, and deeply human, that every older adult should know if they wish to preserve the precious bond of siblinghood, even when life has pulled them in different directions. But before we begin, I ask one small favor. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. This space was created especially for thoughtful, life-loving souls like you, people who still believe in healing, in growth, and in wisdom, even after 60. And if this video touches your heart in any way, I encourage you to watch until the very end. There may be a message here not just for you, but for someone you love. Now, take a deep breath. Let's begin this quiet reflection together. Because it's never too late to rebuild. And it's never too late to love again, especially those who once called you by your childhood name. 1. When money comes between blood. If you speak to enough families, especially those in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, you'll start to notice something heartbreaking. It isn't betrayal, or jealousy, or even deep-rooted resentment that causes siblings to drift apart. More often than not, it's something far simpler, far quieter, but deeply dangerous. It's money. Now, money itself isn't the problem. After all, we all need it to live. We save it, we earn it, we worry about it. But money becomes a problem when it enters the sacred space of family without the guardrails of clarity, respect, and boundaries. Let me share a story I've never forgotten. Years ago, I sat with a man named Thomas during a grief counseling session. He was in his early 70s, polite, soft-spoken, the kind of man who always wore neatly ironed shirts and called people sir. His older brother had recently passed away, but Thomas wasn't there to grieve his death. He was grieving the loss of their relationship, one that had ended nearly 15 years earlier. When I asked what had happened, Thomas paused. His eyes welled up as he told me he borrowed $10,000 from me when he lost his job. I didn't ask for it back. I told him to take his time. But he never brought it up again. Not once. No thank you, no apology, no promise. Just silence. And then he said something I've carried with me ever since. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was what the silence said, that my kindness meant so little, it could be forgotten. This is what so many of us misunderstand. In our younger years, we think of siblings as constants, unchanging, unshakable. But as we age, every relationship requires effort, communication, and most importantly, respect. And when it comes to financial matters between brothers and sisters, the risk of misunderstanding is dangerously high. Sometimes it starts with a small loan. A quick favor. A signature on a joint account. And because we are family, it often feels impolite to set expectations or to ask for clear terms. But the truth is, the closer the relationship, the more clarity is required, not less. Here's what I want every older adult to remember. No matter how much you trust your sibling, or how well you think you know their heart, do not let money float unspoken between you. Put it in writing. Set a repayment timeline, even if flexible. Make room for honesty, even if uncomfortable. It doesn't make you greedy. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Especially as we age, we must protect what matters most. And money, left unclear, has a quiet way of eroding trust, one assumption at a time. Let me be even more direct. Do not lend what you cannot afford to lose. Not just the money itself, but the peace in your heart, the harmony at family gatherings, the quiet pride you once had in calling each other brother and sister. And if you are the one in need, if you must borrow from a sibling, then borrow with humility. Be upfront. Communicate clearly. And most importantly, follow through. Even if you can't repay the full amount quickly, stay in touch. Let them know you haven't forgotten. That their kindness meant something. That you are not taking advantage of love just because it was freely given. The pain that grows in silence is always deeper than the pain of any financial loss. Now, I know that for many watching this, the damage may already be done. There may be decades of silence between you and a sibling. Words left unsaid. Money never repaid. Relationships frayed by disappointment. But let me say this gently. It is never too late to try. You may not be able to fix the past, but you can reach for peace in the present. A letter. A phone call. A simple acknowledgement that says, I remember. I'm sorry. I still care. Because in the end, when we look back at our lives, we won't remember the dollar amounts. We'll remember the moments we lost. The chairs that stayed empty during the holidays. The birthdays missed. The siblings we loved but drifted from. Money may be necessary for living. But love is what makes a life worth living. So protect your sibling bond. Honor it. Clarify it. And never let unspoken debts grow louder than the laughter you once shared. Let this be the beginning of healing, not just of bank accounts, but of hearts. 2. Respect their space, respect their life. There's a common mistake we often make as we get older. We assume that because someone is family, because they are our brother or our sister, we are entitled to a role in every corner of their life. Their marriage. Their parenting. Their finances. Their choices. And yet, nothing tears siblings apart faster than the slow erosion of boundaries. As children, we shared bedrooms, toys, secrets, even punishments. It was natural to be involved in each other's lives, to speak our minds, to offer opinions freely. But adulthood changes everything. We become individuals with separate paths, values, and responsibilities. And what once felt like closeness can, over time, begin to feel like intrusion. Let me share the story of Claire and Judith, two sisters I met during a family mediation session in Boston. They had grown up inseparable, only 2 years apart. After their parents passed away, Claire, the elder, took on the role of caretaker and decision-maker. Judith was grateful at first. Claire helped with everything from sorting out the family home to supporting Judith during a difficult divorce. But somewhere along the way, Claire began making decisions for Judith. She insisted on helping her find a new apartment, helped pick out her furniture, even pressured her to see a specific therapist. Judith, feeling overwhelmed, started pulling away. What had once felt like sisterly support now felt like control. The result? Years of silence, broken birthdays, and emotional walls that neither knew how to tear down. Claire never meant harm. Her actions came from love. But love, even when well-intentioned, can feel suffocating when it's not offered with respect. This happens more often than we realize. Sometimes it's an older brother giving unsolicited advice about your marriage. Sometimes it's a sister criticizing your parenting choices. Sometimes it's the assumption that just because we are family, we get to know everything, weigh in on everything, or fix everything. Here's what I've come to understand: support without respect becomes control. And even the deepest bond between siblings needs space to breathe. So how do we honor each other without overstepping? Start with this simple truth: not every problem needs your opinion. Sometimes your sibling just wants to be heard. Not fixed. Not advised. Just heard. If they come to you, listen with presence, not judgment. If they don't come to you, trust that they are living the life they were meant to live, even if it looks different from yours. And if you ever feel the urge to step in, ask yourself, am I doing this for them, or am I doing it because I need to feel useful, in control, or needed? Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges built with intention and love. They say, I care about you enough to trust your path. They say, I'm here for you, but I won't walk into your life uninvited. In my years of counseling older adults, I've seen more sibling relationships ruined by interference than by outright conflict. The interference is often subtle. A critical comment. A controlling suggestion. A repeated reminder of how things should be done. But behind every suggestion, there's often a quiet message being sent. And if that message isn't respect, it will eventually be received as rejection. Let's be honest, at this stage of life, none of us want more drama. We want peace. We want connection. We want to be seen and accepted, not managed or molded. So if you have a sibling whose choices you don't understand, who married someone you wouldn't have chosen, who raised their children differently, who lives by rules that puzzle you, pause. Step back. Breathe. Let love be the language. Let trust be the bridge. Let curiosity replace criticism. And if you've overstepped in the past, don't be afraid to say so. A simple, heartfelt sentence like, "I realize I may have gone too far trying to help. I trust you, and I'm here when you need me," can heal years of silent resentment. Respect is a gift. It says, "I see you not as who you were when we were kids, but as the person you are today." And when respect lives in a relationship, love finds its way back in. Your sibling may not need your guidance. They may not want your suggestions. But they will always need your kindness, your presence, and your respect. That is how we grow together, not just as siblings, but as wholehearted human beings, even in the later chapters of life. 3. Close in distance, distant in heart. There is a beautiful idea that many families hold on to, the hope that living close to one another will keep them close emotionally. That siblings who share a street, a fence, or even just a short drive will naturally stay connected, share meals, help with the grandkids, and support one another through life's changes. But proximity, as lovely as it sounds, doesn't guarantee harmony. In fact, living too close without the maturity to manage personal boundaries can quietly destroy the very relationships we hope to preserve. Let me tell you about Evelyn and her two brothers, Michael and David. All three had grown up in a small town in Oregon. After their parents passed away, they decided to stay nearby and build homes on adjoining lots. It seemed perfect at first. Their children played together every afternoon. Evelyn often dropped off dinner for Michael's wife when she was working late. David came by every weekend to help her husband with projects in the yard. They thought they had created a little piece of heaven. But over the years, small issues started creeping in. Michael complained that Evelyn's dog barked too much. David's kids left their bikes in front of Evelyn's garage. Someone parked in the wrong driveway during a holiday gathering. Someone didn't get invited to a family dinner. Someone made a comment that felt like a judgment. Tiny cracks. Little hurts. But because they saw each other so often, the distance had nowhere to hide. Every interaction carried leftover tension. Every family barbecue had an undercurrent of frustration. Eventually, Evelyn started closing her blinds when she saw one of her brothers walking by. Michael pulled his kids out of carpool. David began spending weekends away. And that dream of being a close-knit family, it became a story they no longer told. So what went wrong? The answer is both simple and sobering. They didn't set boundaries before they built closeness. Here's the truth many of us learn too late in life. Just because you're close in distance doesn't mean you're close in heart. And sometimes, living too close without emotional space can wear a relationship thin. As we grow older, our need for personal rhythm, peace, and privacy increases. We cherish our routines, our silence, and our control over how we spend our time. But when siblings live next door or even just down the street, those lines can blur, especially if unspoken expectations begin to grow. You might start to feel obligated to invite them to every dinner. You might resent that they drop by without calling. You might feel pressure to parent their children differently when they are at your house. And worst of all, you might start avoiding them, not because you dislike them, but because your relationship never had space to breathe. There's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. But I believe that's too harsh. What familiarity breeds without boundaries is fatigue. Emotional fatigue. Relational fatigue. Fatigue from trying to be everything for everyone simply because they are close enough to ask. So if you're considering moving close to a sibling, or if you already live near one, have the honest conversations now. Set agreements. Respect time. Create space. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. You can love your brother deeply and still need quiet Sunday mornings without visitors. You can adore your sister and still prefer to vacation separately. You can share meals, holidays, and memories, but only when those moments come from joy, not obligation. The goal of living near family is not to recreate childhood. It's to support each other as adults, with care, with maturity, and with understanding. And if you already feel the strain if you find yourself sighing when your sibling knocks on the door, or tensing up when you see their number on your phone, take a gentle step back. You don't need to move away to reset the relationship. Sometimes, a little emotional space is enough to rekindle warmth. Say it with love. I need more quiet these days. I'd appreciate a call before stopping by. Let's have dinner just once a month and make it special. It's not rejection. It's renewal. Because the goal of growing older together is not to be tangled in each other's lives. It's to walk side by side with enough space to grow, to breathe, and to still miss each other once in a while. So live near if you choose to. But love wisely. Set boundaries with kindness. Create space with care. And above all, protect the connection, not just the closeness. 4. Shared burdens, not silent expectations. If there's one thing that quietly strains sibling relationships in later life, it's this: the unequal burden of responsibility. It shows up in ways that often seem small at first. A sister is always the one organizing the family gatherings. A brother pays the hospital bills for an aging parent while the others remain silent. One sibling becomes the default caregiver while the rest live their lives untouched by the daily weight of obligation. And though no harsh words are spoken, the silence between them starts to grow louder. I remember speaking with a woman named Darlene, age 68, who had spent the last 5 years caring for their mother with dementia. Her brother lived only 30 minutes away but rarely visited. Her sister, who lived in another state, sent occasional texts and holiday cards. Darlene had rearranged her life, left her part-time job, and taken on the emotional and financial cost of full-time caregiving. When I asked her how she felt, she looked down and whispered, "It's not the work that exhausts me. It's feeling like they don't care. Like I'm the only one carrying her memory while she's still here." This kind of quiet resentment is far more common than we realize. Because the truth is, most families never talk about who will do what. They assume someone will step up. And when one sibling does, the others slowly pull back, not out of malice, but out of convenience. And that, right there, is the problem. Love cannot be measured by effort, but respect must be. When one sibling consistently gives more time, more money, more emotional energy without acknowledgement or support, it eventually turns to bitterness. That's why the most resilient sibling relationships are not the ones without hardship. They are the ones where responsibility is discussed openly and shared fairly. So if you're watching this and you are the one carrying more than your share, let me speak to your heart. You are not wrong for wanting help. You are not selfish for feeling exhausted. And you are not obligated to suffer in silence. Speak up. Gently. Clearly. Kindly. Say, "I need help scheduling mom's appointments." Say, "I can't afford to keep paying for dad's medications alone." Say, "I'm feeling burned out. Can we rotate responsibilities?" You might be surprised. Often, siblings do not even realize how uneven things have become until someone speaks the truth. And if you are someone who has stepped back, who has let a sister or brother carry more than their fair share, this is your moment to return. Not with guilt. Not with defensiveness. But with humility. Offer what you can. Maybe it's financial support. Maybe it's a weekend of care so they can rest. Maybe it's just showing up and listening. Even small efforts, made sincerely, can heal deep fractures. And what about money? Financial contributions within a family are one of the biggest sources of unspoken tension. If one sibling pays for the gravestone, another for the hospital bills, another for home repairs, resentment builds unless things are open, transparent, and fair. No one should be expected to give more simply because they have more. At the same time, no one should disappear when money is involved. Here's what I advise my clients. Make everything visible. Use a shared document. Write down costs. Decide who will contribute what and do it before the crisis hits. And above all, don't confuse generosity with obligation. Just because one sibling is generous does not mean the others are entitled. And just because someone gives freely does not mean they should give alone. This is not about money. This is about honoring the bond you share by carrying the load together. In the later years of life, we begin to see how fragile time is. And there is no greater tragedy than siblings parting ways not because of trauma, but because of quiet, avoidable exhaustion. So share the weight. Speak up. Step in. Let your sibling know. You are not alone in this. I see your effort. I value what you do. And I'm here. That is what keeps families strong. Not perfect balance, but intentional partnership. Not silent expectations, but open-hearted collaboration. Because when the burden is shared, the love becomes stronger. And that, more than anything, is what we'll remember in the years to come. 5. Gratitude is the glue that holds sibling bonds together. As we move into the later chapters of life, many of us begin to understand a truth we once overlooked in our youth: relationships don't survive on love alone. They are held together by something quieter, softer, and far more powerful: gratitude. It may seem odd to talk about gratitude between siblings. After all, aren't they the ones who are supposed to be there no matter what? Isn't it their duty to help, to support, to show up? Why should we have to thank them for doing what family is expected to do? But that mindset, though common, is exactly what weakens the most sacred relationships over time. Let me tell you about Franklin and Rebecca, a pair of siblings in their 70s. Franklin, a retired school principal, was the type of man who believed in structure and responsibility. Rebecca, his younger sister, had spent most of her life as a caregiver, raising her own children and later helping their aging parents through years of declining health. After their mother passed, Franklin gave a short speech at the memorial service. He praised their mother's strength, thanked the doctors, and acknowledged close family friends. But he never once mentioned Rebecca, her years of unpaid caregiving, her sleepless nights, her sacrifices. Afterward, Rebecca didn't say a word. But she slowly stopped calling. Stopped coming to family dinners. And eventually, stopped responding to messages altogether. When I asked Franklin about it years later, he looked down and said, "I just assumed she knew I appreciated her." That was his mistake. You see, love that goes unspoken becomes invisible. And effort that goes unacknowledged turns to hurt. Even among siblings. Especially among siblings. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. It's about noticing. It's about honoring the unseen work, the emotional labor, the moments of quiet sacrifice that so often go uncelebrated within families. Think about your own siblings. Who helped you during a hard time but never asked for credit? Who lent you money when you didn't have the courage to ask anyone else? Who showed up at the hospital? Who watched your children when you needed a break? Who stayed behind to clean up after the family dinner? Maybe it's been decades. Maybe those moments feel small now. But they mattered. They held your life together in ways words could never fully capture. And it's never too late to say, "I saw you. I remember. Thank you." Sometimes we hesitate to express gratitude because we're afraid it will make us look weak, or sentimental, or overly emotional. But in truth, gratitude is one of the most powerful signs of strength and emotional maturity. When you say thank you to your sibling, what you're really saying is, "You mattered to me. I don't take you for granted. You are part of my story, and I honor that. And if you're the one who has given and given and given, and no one has ever thanked you, I want to say something from the heart. You deserve to be seen. Your sacrifices were real. And even if your siblings never found the words, your love left fingerprints that shaped the lives around you. Still, even in your weariness, don't give up on gratitude. Because gratitude, when it flows from you even when you're tired, is not just a gift to others. It's a healing force for yourself. It softens resentment. It quiets disappointment. It reminds you that your heart is still open, still willing, still capable of connection. So if you're watching this, I want to encourage you today, this week, before the month is over, reach out to a sibling and thank them. Even for something small. A memory. A moment. A kindness they may not even remember. Say, I've been thinking about that time you stood by me. Say, I don't think I ever thanked you for being there when I needed you most. Say, I'm grateful to have you in my life. It may feel vulnerable. But vulnerability is the doorway to closeness. And who knows? That small gesture might just open the door to healing a bond that has long gone quiet. In the end, when we reflect on our lives, it's not just the big events we remember. It's the people who stood beside us through them. The hands that reached out. The voices that said, I see you. Gratitude is not a transaction. It's a connection. And in families, it is the golden thread that keeps hearts tied together, even across time and silence. Speak it. Share it. Let it be known. Because siblings, more than anyone else, need to know that the love they gave didn't go unnoticed. 6. Guard the reputation of those your siblings love. As we grow older, something subtle begins to happen. Our families expand not just through birth, but through marriage. Suddenly, our brothers and sisters are no longer just siblings. They become someone's husband, someone's wife, someone's in-law. And with that change comes a quiet test of love. Can we accept the people they choose to walk through life with? You might not say it aloud, but perhaps you thought it. She could have done better. He's not good enough for her. They are so different, how does this even work? And while it's normal to have opinions, it's what we do with those thoughts that determines whether we protect the bond or poison it. Let me share with you the story of Leonard and his younger sister, Teresa. They had always been close. Through childhood, through college, even into their early 40s, they were each other's confidants. When Teresa fell in love with a man named Kyle, Leonard wasn't impressed. Kyle was quiet, soft-spoken, and didn't seem to fit the family's lively personality. Leonard made a few subtle jokes at first. He rolled his eyes at family dinners, made passive comments about Kyle's career, and often spoke to Teresa in private about her settling. At first, Teresa tried to explain. She defended Kyle, reminded Leonard that he was good to her, that he treated her with kindness and respect. But eventually, she grew tired. She stopped bringing Kyle to family events. She stopped answering Leonard's texts. She pulled away not out of anger, but from exhaustion. Years passed. And the once unbreakable bond between brother and sister faded into the background of birthdays and Christmas cards. When I met Leonard, his eyes were heavy with regret. I thought I was protecting her, he said. But really, I was just protecting my own opinion. It was a painful lesson. When you speak against your sibling's partner, you risk pushing them away not just from the one they love, but from you. Because here's what we must remember. When your brother chooses a wife, or your sister finds a husband, they are building a new home, a new world. And even if it doesn't look like yours, it deserves the same respect. You don't have to understand their relationship to honor it. You don't have to agree with their choices to show up in love. And you certainly don't have to like every in-law, but you do need to guard their dignity, especially in the eyes of your sibling. Why? Because when you insult the one they love, what they hear, what they feel is that you are insulting them, too. This doesn't mean you can never voice a concern. If you see something dangerous, manipulative, or abusive, you have every right, even a responsibility, to speak up. But do so with care. Do so in private. Do so only when your words are rooted in love, not judgment. For everything else, practice grace. Here are a few guiding principles I share with clients. If you wouldn't say it to their face, don't say it behind their back. If your concern is based on preference, not principle, keep it to yourself. And if your opinion would only serve to divide, choose silence over superiority. Sometimes, the most respectful thing you can say is nothing at all. I've met countless siblings who carry years of pain not because of personal conflict, but because a brother or sister spoke cruelly about their spouse. That pain is often the hardest to forgive, because it feels like a betrayal of trust and a dismissal of the life they chose. On the other hand, I've seen families blossom when siblings made the brave choice to welcome their in-laws with kindness, even if they were different, even if they were imperfect. One client told me, at first, I didn't understand why my sister married him. But when I saw how happy she was, I realized that understanding wasn't my job. Loving her was. That is wisdom. You don't have to make their choices your own. You just have to respect that they are allowed to choose. And in doing so, you keep the door open. You keep the conversations warm. You keep the visits frequent. You allow your sibling to bring their full life into the room without fear of being judged or belittled. Because at the end of the day, this life is too short for walls built from disapproval. It's too fragile for rifts over personalities, preferences, or misunderstandings. So if you've ever said something hurtful about your sibling, spouse, or partner, take a moment today to reflect. If needed, offer an apology. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Even a simple, "I realize I could have been more respectful, and I'm sorry," can begin to heal what pride once cracked. Protect the love. Guard the dignity. And trust that your sibling's heart knows what it needs. Because real family doesn't just love you. It loves those you love. 7. When humility builds bridges and pride builds walls. There's a saying I often return to in conversations with older adults: the loudest thing in any relationship isn't what's said, it's what's felt. In families, especially among siblings, the unspoken emotions are what shape the relationship. Love, respect, jealousy, guilt, admiration, they all swirl beneath the surface of every conversation, every gathering, every holiday dinner. And one emotion, above all, has the quiet power to heal or to harm. Pride. When handled with humility, pride gives us confidence, dignity, and the strength to stand on our own. But when pride turns into comparison, competition, or the need to be right, it becomes a wedge. A subtle but stubborn wall between people who were never meant to grow apart. Let me tell you the story of Raymond and Linda, twins, born minutes apart, but worlds apart by the time they reached their 60s. Raymond was the success story. He had a well-paying job, a lake house, vacations in Europe. Linda lived modestly, working part-time as a librarian, never married, never moved out of the town they grew up in. At every family event, Raymond brought lavish gifts. He talked proudly about his travels, his investments, his golf club membership. He never said anything cruel, but everything about his presence said, "I made it farther than you did." Linda, though outwardly kind, began to shrink in his shadow. She felt invisible. Forgotten. Less than. She stopped showing up at gatherings. She made excuses. And after a while, the silence grew. When I asked her once if she missed her brother, she said, "Every day. But I don't miss how I feel when I'm around him." That is what unchecked pride does. It doesn't just make others feel small. It makes them disappear from our lives slowly, silently, painfully. And here's the tragic part: Raymond never meant to hurt her. He truly loved his sister. But he was so busy showcasing his life that he forgot to include her in it. You see, siblings don't need your success stories. They need your presence. They need your phone call. Your visit. Your laughter. Your warmth. Not your resume. So if you're someone who has done well in life, celebrate it, but do so without comparison. Share your joy without making others feel like their story is somehow less valuable. Remember that dignity isn't measured in square footage or dollar signs. It's measured in how you treat those who stood with you when you had nothing. And if you're the one who feels left behind, who didn't climb as high, didn't earn as much, didn't marry or have children, know this: your life is not smaller. It is uniquely yours. And it holds just as much wisdom, strength, and meaning. Jealousy is a natural human emotion. But letting it speak louder than love is a choice. Don't let someone else's path make you question your own. Instead, celebrate the parts of your story that no one else could have written. That's where your strength lives. If pride has gotten in the way between you and a sibling, if there's distance that wasn't caused by a fight, but by years of silent comparison, let this be your moment to shift the tide. You don't need a dramatic apology. You just need honesty. Say, "I miss you." Say, "Let's talk more." Say, "Our lives may be different, but you matter to me." Sometimes, the smallest sentence carries the greatest weight. Humility builds bridges. It says, "We are both human." It says, "You don't have to impress me, I already love you." It says, "We've changed, but the bond still matters." And if you're struggling to let go of old slights, old comparisons, old feelings of being overlooked or outshined, breathe. Ask yourself, will this matter 5 years from now? More importantly, is this pain worth losing a sibling over? Life after 60 isn't about proving anything anymore. It's about peace. Connection. Legacy. It's about walking into the later chapters of life with as little baggage as possible and as many open hearts as we can gather around us. So put the pride down. Let it go. Call your brother. Write your sister. Tell them the door is open. That love still lives here. Because in the end, no one's going to stand at your funeral and recite your list of accomplishments. They'll remember who you were to them. How you made them feel. Whether you showed up with humility or hid behind pride. Let your story be one of reconciliation. Let your legacy be love. And if you've made it this far in the video, that tells me something beautiful. You're willing to reflect. You're willing to grow. And that's where healing begins. Because blood alone is not enough, it takes care to stay connected. If you've stayed with me until this moment, I want to take a quiet pause with you, just the two of us, and offer something not often said aloud. Thank you. Not just for watching, but for caring. Because it takes real courage to look at the relationships in our lives, especially those as deep and old as sibling bonds, and ask, could I be doing more? Could I be doing better? Over the course of this video, we've walked through 7 heartfelt truths. And if there's a thread that ties them all together, it's this. Being siblings doesn't guarantee closeness. But being intentional does. We are born into families without choosing them. But we do choose whether to stay connected. We choose whether to communicate. We choose whether to carry old resentments or let them go. We choose whether to allow space, show respect, speak gratitude, and build bridges when walls have formed. Somewhere along the way, many of us forget that the people who once shared our laughter, our secrets, our sorrows, and our parents' home are human beings with their own wounds, fears, and needs just like us. And if we are not careful, we let distance grow between us, not just in miles, but in silence. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can begin again. You can reach across the years with a phone call, a letter, a visit, or even just a sincere message that says, I miss you. I appreciate you. I'm sorry. I'm still here. You don't need a perfect family to find peace. You just need one moment of honesty. One decision to soften your heart. Because when everything else fades, our careers, our wealth, even our health, it's the people who knew us at our beginning that carry the deepest pieces of our soul. So if this video has stirred something in you, if a brother's name just came to mind, or the face of a sister you haven't seen in years quietly entered your thoughts, don't wait. Don't let ego or time or they should call first stand in the way. Be the one who reaches out. Be the one who heals what's been broken. Be the one who proves that real love outlasts pride, pain, and years of silence. And if your siblings are no longer here, let this message inspire you to love those around you more fiercely. Pass down the lessons. Be the sibling, the friend, the elder that others can count on. You are not too old to start again. And you are never too late to love deeper. Before we go, I want to thank you for being part of this community. If this message spoke to your heart, please consider subscribing to this channel. It's free, but the conversations we share here are priceless. We create these reflections especially for older adults who still believe in growth, in love, and in living with intention. Leave a comment below. Tell me about your siblings. Or your story. Or a lesson life has taught you about family. I read every word. And so do others who, just like you, are walking through the tender beauty of aging with open hearts. And if you found value in this video, please share it with someone you care about. Maybe it's a brother, a sister, or a lifelong friend who feels like one. Because love deserves to be passed on. From my heart to yours. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing connection. And may your day, your relationships, and your life ahead be filled with peace, healing, and meaning. Wishing you a beautiful new beginning. We'll see you in the next video. Take good care.